Good morning, Scott here, known as Cantaloupe to some online, and I'm bringing another video to you on a subject that's interesting to me. It might be of interest to you or someone you know. And I want to talk about reasonable challenges and unreasonable challenges. There's a difference. It actually turns out there's a measurable qualification that you can use to determine and differentiate different types of challenges, such as, those you might face when starting a business or planning a business kind of thing, or any project really. There are challenges that can be anticipated, and you should anticipate challenges for anything that's worth your time. There's going to be an uphill battle at some point, some kind of element of difficulty that makes it worthwhile, hopefully in the long run, because you will end up putting in work, and that elevates it above a lowest point of energy. Maybe you've heard of that idea. And you end up with something of value at the end. So what do I mean by challenges? I mean, there are some kinds of challenges that are unreasonable to have to anticipate in the first place because they involve the will of other people. So there's a clue for you. There are many clues, actually. So here's another one. When there's a red light first system, maybe you've heard me mention this in other videos, versus a green light first system, that is when an administrator or a framework, a policy decides that you will be preemptively blocked for safety reasons from doing certain activities or anything in general, until at which point you have been green lighted by a human or a system or a process or an application, you end up with a shrinking surface of usability. This is a lot of terminology, I'm going to say it again. So when you have a red light first system, that is when you have to apply for a license, a business license, for example, that's an example of a red light first system where you're expected to qualify, you're expected to notify somebody, request permission, and possibly pay dues or fees beforehand. That creates a situation where you have an edge case in pretty much every situation where things fall through the cracks, where somebody who had to take a leap of faith will eventually just choose not to because there's an unsupportable, unrealistic, unreasonable challenge at hand. Okay, so you end up with some safety, predictably, and that's usually the selling point of these systems, but you have a shrinking surface of usability. You have a diminishing return. There are a lot of ways to describe this. So the alternative, the green light first system, is a vote of confidence, right? It's an expectation of success. It's saying, yes, there are bad apples, but the vast majority of people are on the up and up. They're aiming for productivity and honest hard work, and we're going to have confidence in that despite the bad apples, and we're going to choose to uphold liberty and the assumption of innocence, the presumption of people doing what they're supposed to do most of the time. And we're going to refuse to sacrifice your freedom and your vote of confidence. That's really the one job, if you ask me, that an administrator has. Everything else stems from that. An administrator, proper authority, has one job to do, and that is to protect the liberty of the people beneath them, in spite of and especially when there's a problem. But anyway, so challenges, back to the subject. Challenges such as trying to guess what button some asshole is pushing behind a screen. You understand what I'm saying, right? So you have some asshole behind the screen, and he's got a number of buttons he can push to create obstacles for you. This becomes very quickly an unsupportable, unreasonable challenge, because that person is dynamically adjusting their strategy to what you may be doing, just to throw a monkey wrench in it, potentially. Not every time, but that would be an unreasonable challenge to have to anticipate. You can't guess what button some guy's going to push, especially when it's designed to be dynamic and responsive to what you're doing. Okay, and you might say that that's just competition for you, right? That's just competition. That's how it goes. Turns out, no, that's against the law, actually. In this part of the world, and in every civilized part of the world, there's something called unfair competition. It's an actual crime on the books. I'm not even exaggerating. Unfair competition is when any business tries to not just succeed on their own terms, like in their own arena, in their own sphere. They are actively sabotaging and conspiring or collaborating against somebody, trying to steal their stuff or impede their progress. It's counterproductive. It spoils it for everybody. So it is actually a crime. It's illegal to do that. So this is another example of an unsupportable, unrealistic, unreasonable challenge. And I hear this all the time. So my final point is that it irritates me when I hear someone say, "Oh, well, that's just how it goes, man. That's life. Life's not fair. You have to anticipate challenges." No, that's true. You're right. You have to anticipate challenges, and I will never give up if it's a reasonable one. But if it's some conscious, intelligent person hiding behind some screen pushing buttons just as fast as I do, that's not a challenge at all. That's a criminal. That's an actual person who's sabotaging my work, and that's not a normal challenge, is it? So it's something to think about, something to understand and recognize when you see it. And just like a lot of my videos, I'm just pointing out an abuse, an exploitation that goes on every day. Open your eyes, be aware, protect yourself, be happy, successful, and healthy. I hope everybody has a great day. Reach out with questions or comments to whitehotrobot@gmail.com. Thank you.